Are you ready to listen to my dad Joe and Uncle Justin talk about sports? Now on with the show.
The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop, which have been serving the greater West Lawn area delicious food for over 70 years. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
Boring.
A weekly podcast about sports since 2011.
Don't you ever get tired of being wrong all the time?
With a focus on football.
36-yard line of Philly, shotgun snap to Hurts, dropping back, only one person rushing, Hurts looking, standing still, winding up, long pass, it lands at the 20, no one is there, zeros on the clock, it's over, the Chiefs have won, Super Bowl 57 on a game-winning field goal, trailing at 10. At the halftime stop, 24-14, they go on to win 38-35. What a game.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays. Sitting here with me, as always, is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
And we are joined once again by a guest of the show. He's been here multiple times before, and we appreciate him. Joining us once again is Chad Henne. Chad, thanks for joining us.
Sure, thank you for having me.
All right, so we have a lot to talk about, Chad. It's been not quite a year since you were here. You were in March last year. You had just retired. So how have things been retirement-wise? Is it everything you thought it would be?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be around the family, coaching every kid's sport known to man, spending good quality time with the kids, with Brittany, obviously, and, getting back into the Wilson program, helping out with them, as well as kind of starting up my business and training quarterbacks in the area.
Yeah, well, let's start right there because I did want to get information on your business venture that you started. I know we saw it in action all last summer. Got to see you on the field. So tell us about 247 Quarterback and what you want to do with that.
Yeah, so I kind of just started the thing. Obviously Jim Contafio, my high school head coach, has been doing it for years at FCS Sports. So I was like, you know what, I can kind of do it on my own. But then I was like, you know what, I might need some help. Jim has some great contacts, and we partnered up and been starting to do a lot of mini camps, some individual training, and it's really, hit the wheels running. So it's been a lot of fun.
You were at an SVS camp this morning, I believe, right?
Yep. So we had one this morning at Lenco Fieldhouse from 8 to 11. A good turnout. I mean, it's great to see kids of all ages, whether it be high school from, that age group down to 8 years old. Kids that just really want to improve their fundamentals. And I love just, being around them. Everybody has a little nuance to them. And if I can inspire them in any way and teach them a little bit about quarterback play or just life in general, I'm definitely here to give back.
Well, and I think we've seen it already happen on the field, local community. You became an assistant coach for your alma mater, all of our alma mater,
Yep.
at Wilson High School. Got to work with the quarterbacks this year and kind of almost like an offensive analyst type. And Tommy Hunsaker was a revelation this season. He was named to the All-State team, so you had to have a pretty good year to make that cut, as you would know. What was it like coming back to Wilson and getting to work with a quarterback like Tommy?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Obviously, the great Doug Doms, who obviously has been coaching for probably a half a century at Wilson. But such a great staff. I mean, I couldn't be more happier joining them, being a part of it, and just getting the feed of how Wilson football has been run throughout the years, and just getting in and really diving in with them and just having a blast this year. And obviously Tommy with a great year. I mean, that wasn't just because I came on board. Jeremy has done a phenomenal job with these kids and this offense. And like I said, it was just such a blast to be around that staff and the kids, and such a great year.
Yeah. You talk Doug Dumbs, Jeremy Palm, all those coaches you got to work with. It was great to see you back on the staff, though. I know there had always been for years, rumor what's going to happen. When Chad retires, you think he'll coach at Wilson? And you kind of always played it cool. You're like, yeah, it'd be fun to get back into things. I don't know if right away if that's something I'll be doing. And then next thing you know, I'm taking your picture as an assistant coach on picture day, and the word finally gets out fully to everyone that, yeah, he's going to be helping out this year. So it was great to have you back, to see you working the sidelines on Friday nights. That was always a lot of fun. And well, we started off strong here, Justin, because Chad surprised us when he got here. He brought his Super Bowl rings, which we had never seen in person and seen pictures of. So Justin and I obviously had to throw those on. And when you look at Super Bowl rings, you look at the photos, you can't even imagine what it's like in person to look and hold. They're just gargantuan. It's just insane.
I don't know if they can see it.
You can, this camera's on right now, so you can hold them up a little higher. There you go. I don't know if they'll focus. Yeah, there you go. It's getting pretty good. Yeah, so the light's a little bright, but yeah,
they're a little shiny.
They're a little shiny. There's a lot of reflection.
One's a little bigger than the other one. That's a 3-year difference right there.
So, what was it like getting that first one after the first? You're a Super Bowl champion now. Did that kind of put a bow on it? Be like, here's my ring. This is my championship right here.
Yeah, I mean, I think after 12 years, when you go through any business, and you try to work to the highest point of your profession, and you finally get it, it just shows all the hard work. And obviously, not me personally, but as a team, it's just a great attribute to really staying in. I mean, we always say those who stay will be champions at Michigan. So I really stayed long enough to finally get one after year 12. And then luckily enough, 3 years later, I get my second one. So definitely, a lot of great coaches, a lot of great players that I played with that have helped me along the way and to reach the highest point in my career.
And just you told us this right before we started, just to show how much of a business the NFL has to be. Just a few years difference between your championships, and how many of you were still remained from your first title?
Yeah, so 15 players. So on that second one, it actually opens up. I'll try to open it up as slowly as I can. It opens, and then there is, Arrowhead Field right there. And there were 15 of us that were on the first Super Bowl. So there's 2 Lombardi trophies on the field where Arrowhead is, and there was 15 of us that won 2, and those that only won 1 got 1 Lombardi trophy on the ring. So definitely a really cool attribute that Clark Hunt and the staff had done with this ring. 15 people after 3 years remained and won a second.
Turnover.
There's probably even less now
right.
that they're going back this year if they do have the opportunity to win another one.
Yeah, and I don't want to stop talking about the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but that's definitely a topic that'll come back here in a few minutes. But I wanted to go back to your college days because Michigan's on top of the college football world for the first time since, 97?
97.
So it's been many years coming, many decades for that to happen again. But the two of you actually got to see the precursor to that, or the pre to the precursor. You both were at the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis.
Yeah, Justin and I got to meet up. My mom actually reached out and said, "Hey, Justin, his dad, and Austin are going to be down there in Indianapolis," and so we met up. We had dinner the night before. Then we did, what do they call the Big Ten?
It's like the Fan Fest
Fest.
Whatever they call it, but yeah.
So we enjoyed that.
Oh, and the boys had quite the time.
Yes.
At that, man, that was pretty cool.
And we got to give a shout out to Austin. Obviously, Justin came in today and he made some block M's for my son Chase because they really tore it up down there in Indianapolis at the national championship game. So
yes, Austin is one to. He's got an artistic flair to him, Justin.
He does like
He has
drawing.
dropped off
Yes.
a brief around my basement here. I have multiple pieces of his artwork. One of which actually is you, Chad. So Austin made this.
oh, nice.
This,
I forgot about that
yeah,
one.
this stitched Chad Henne Dolphins little bear.
That might have been after I had a couple concussions. I don't know.
So, yeah, well, I mean, that's awesome that you guys got to hook up and meet up and hang out at the Big Ten Championship. And, Michigan came out on top there, went on to win their semifinal game and then take down Washington in the national title. And you were at that game as well. What was it like that was in Houston, correct?
That was in Houston, yeah.
Well, what was it like to be able to say you were there to witness your alma mater win the national title?
Yeah, I mean, it was super cool. I mean, obviously, a lot of players that I played with went back to the game, and it was probably 70% Michigan fans to 30% Washington fans. So
Which is probably like all the Washington fans, right?
yeah. I mean,
be,
we traveled well as Michigan alums, and, it was a great game, obviously. It was definitely one of those where you saw the size difference on the offensive line that overpowered them in the run game.
We're aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But great
Saw
game,
it.
great atmosphere, and it was cool for my kids to get to witness that. Obviously, we went from Ohio State. We went to the Ohio State game as a family. Then we went to the Big Ten championship game. It was just Chase and I, and then national championship we went as a family.
All four of you got to go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool to be able to spend that time with your family, get to see all those events. The first year out of the NFL, and
I know.
you go back.
I'm
on top.
traveling.
Yeah, you're all over the place. You get to see a championship with your alma mater, and doing that with your family, especially your son, multiple times. That's really cool. What
It's
a
cool
great
to have the
opportunity.
freedom to do that too. Like, it would have been cool. I'm sure you would have loved it. But like, if that would have happened
during
last year,
Right.
like.
You would have been a little
in a spot
preoccupied.
where,
Yeah, a
like,
little
you're
chaos.
prepping to go into the playoffs, and
Right. Yeah.
Does that come up? The collegiate rivalry, does that come up in NFL locker rooms a lot?
Oh, absolutely.
All the time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not a betting person, but I guarantee you there's a bet going on every week. And sometimes it's not even the teams that are playing like your alma maters. It could be, hey, Missouri's playing like Georgia, and you're like, okay, who wants to bet? Like, we're betting big on this. It's like, all right, guys, calm down.
So team to team, it happens. How about, do you get a lot of conference to conference? Like, is there a lot of Big Ten versus SEC? Do people draw lines in the sand there too?
Yeah, there's definitely some bragging rights. And obviously everybody from the SEC thinks,
They're the best.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the best. And obviously this year we can say we are the best. We beat Alabama, which obviously has been a great program throughout the years. And it's great to see them back on top. And now we lost our head coach. So we'll see what happens. But we're in good hands with Coach Moore. He'll have to develop a staff. Obviously, Jesse Minter left with Jim Harbaugh to go to the Chargers. But I'm sure he'll do a great job as well.
I feel like it says a lot when a program is in a spot that when the coach leaves, they don't really need to like even interview. Like I'm sure they sat down with him, but like they knew he was their guy right away.
Well, they saw him do it this year.
Yeah, I mean, he only coached in probably
exactly.
half the
Yeah, he
games.
coached
anyway.
six
Right,
games.
exactly,
I mean-
exactly. So like they knew he was their guy, if they needed him.
Sure.
And it's a great opportunity for him.
He brought a
tough
lot of
circumstances this
enthusiasm.
year, but he more than held his own this
Yes.
year. So.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of interaction with Coach Harbaugh or Coach Moore over the last years, just as an alum, especially as a high-profile quarterback alumni of the university?
Not really, but I mean, not that we never kept in contact. I mean, they would always, send care packages, send letters, wish you the best of luck. But it was cool going back this year, the Ohio State game, going in the locker room, really meeting the guys face to face and congratulating them on the win against Ohio State. But just to see their personality. And obviously Mike Hart, who I played with, is the running back coach there. I don't know what's going to happen this year, but just really cool to meet them and, appreciate the alums that have gone through the same process.
Did you have a guy that you thought popped off the screen watching the Michigan games this year? Everyone knows the big names, but there was a guy that you really enjoyed watching. Was it JJ? Was it Blake? Was it some defensive guy? Is there someone that stood out to you that you thought he was a lot of fun to watch play football?
Yeah, I mean, Blake Corum obviously, is, the front runner. I think, for his size, his stature, I think he ran really hard. J.J. McCarthy obviously had one of the best seasons, and obviously, like they said, he might be the greatest quarterback in Michigan, which you can't disagree. I mean, with the 27-1 record, I would take that record over my records any day to get that national championship, 3 Big Ten championships. So he did one heck of a job, and I wish him all the best of success in the NFL as well.
Do you think it's going to be a tough job for Coach Moore this next year with the amount of talent that they're leaving behind? Do you think it's going to be tough to repeat as champions?
I was a little surprised, and I know the college game is different. We were talking a little bit about that now in terms of how teams can rebuild, but I think it was at the Big Ten Championship. They mentioned something like there were like 44 seniors or graduate students on the roster this year, and I was like, wow, that was surprising. Now I knew they had returned a lot from the year before that wanted to finish the job that they didn't get done last year, but I was like, wow, that's half of a roster, but that's. In terms of guys that see the field, that's maybe not, I know it's not literally all of them, but it's a lot of them. And then also just having that depth in college is just so different than the 53 or 49 or 48 guys that get to go on a Sunday in the pros.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was 19 guys that entered the NFL, draft. So
that's an insane number.
And maybe Jim had a little inkling and was like, all right, I'm obviously losing the best quarterback, best running back. Our offensive line might shake up. We'll see where they go. So
this isn't a knock on Ann Arbor. I do that sometimes, but this isn't one. But if somebody's gonna pay you a lot of money and you can live in Southern California, I visited Southern California multiple times. So I'm like, oh, it's cool to visit, but probably not the place for me to live. But if you have, the kind of money he's going to be making as a coach out there, there are worse places where you could live.
And he's got a great young quarterback in Justin Herbert. So he's definitely going to, install some of the run game, kind of take the pressure off of Justin and try to establish that program, except for they're in the AFC West. So it's going to be difficult to beat Patrick Mahomes multiple times in a year.
So last collegiate related question, and Justin kind of started to allude to it, and we could do an entire show on this topic, but this one came up a bunch in texts and messages and emails, but just your kind of thoughts about college football and the way things have gone the last few years with NIL endorsements and the transfer portal. What is your reaction to the way things have changed just over the last, 3 years versus when you were there?
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I can see why Jim Harbaugh left because it's a headache. I mean, kids are transferring, entering the portal, and they're entering very early. They don't even get in to the end of the season, and they can leave.
Yep.
And so I think they're going to have to bump that back at least, a week after the season just to keep it fair.
They were talking about how Saban and eventually Michigan were at such a disadvantage by being good.
Sure.
Because they are the last ones to be able to enter this, we lost our head coach. And then you end up in a spot where, we lost, or Washington for that matter.
Right, yeah.
They lost their head coach, and then all of a sudden, you're trying to do this thing where everybody's been in this market for weeks already. It's really tough. And we talk, it's the pendulum has swung. Before, when it was the coaches could come and go and the kids were stuck for better or worse, or, you had coaches who might be spiteful for whatever reason, not let someone transfer who wasn't ever going to see the field somewhere. That wasn't right either.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is kind of chaotic.
Sure. I think they need to switch it over just like the NFL does. Put an AFC, NFC, or whatever you want to do, 2 conferences.
Yeah.
Have divisions, play the games, go in, obviously, still the college football playoff, have a cap on these kids because
it's going that direction.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the Texas schools and the people that have tons of money, oil money, they can pay whoever they want.
Right.
And I think, J.J. McCarthy, I even asked, I was like, okay, what's this guy getting paid at Michigan? And he was actually on the low end for how successful he was when other kids are making almost
Yeah.
quadruple the amount of money that he's making.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. Joey and I have kind of had a similar approach. Like it's not our favorite thing. Like I'm not opposed to the guys getting anything.
Sure.
Like because
NIL,
especially at the high ends, like they bring in so much value to the university and everything.
yeah, NIL at its surface is what I think is it's necessary. It should have been there. It feels like it's like chaotic. I think is a great way to describe it. Like you said, it's just everything just kind of downfall. Like there was just this waterfall effect, this snowball effect that just happened when the NCAA was kind of like, we're going to back off on this because we're going to get slapped with antitrust violations or we're going to face lawsuits. So, spoiler, you're facing lawsuits anyways.
Yeah.
As we just found out from Tennessee Inspire Sports and their AG, and Virginia joined in. So NCAA football is at a reckoning. I don't know what it's going to be like. It's going to take years to sort everything out. It's not what we grew up on watching in the 90s. It's not how you played in the 2000s. It's wonky. It's weird. It's certainly better for the players. I think like that's obvious by and large, at least, you know,
the immediacy.
In the immediacy, we'll see how it plans out. But I think by, you know, we're talking, I mean, it's 2024, but I think by the early 2030s, we're probably talking like almost like, I mean, we're already in NFL minor leagues is what college has been a developmental league for how long. You're going to have something that's
the
almost
Athletic
a rival.
reported this week, what? Big Ten and SEC
Big
have
Ten
already
and
started
SEC
getting
and everybody
together
else,
of like, what's our path forward here?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's not even the colleges now. Now you're looking at high school as well. Like we're trying to help our kids get recruited, but then kids transfer in. You're like, okay, well, where did he come from? Oh, we're paying him. And now the high school kids are at a disadvantage as well because they step on
really
not knowing
up.
somebody was going to go join the program. And now they're like, oh, wait, I thought I was like 2 or 3. Now I'm 5.
Right. Yeah. The time, that's one thing, the timeline needs to be fixed. You have multiple signing windows for the high school recruits. You have multiple transfer windows for the existing college players.
And it's tough because I do understand the side where like, oh, hey, we want to get these kids in for second semester.
Sure.
You know?
And get in the spring ball and do this
right.
and that.
And if they're here for spring ball, then, you know, like, then they've got it, you know, especially some of the positions, I don't want to say it might not matter, but it definitely matters more at some positions than others, you know? And so like, oh, we want to get this kid in and so he's throwing with this guy all year, you know? It's a tough spot. And yeah, like I said, hopefully
something gets
it comes back. It comes back, and we can have this area where, like, all right, this is more of what we envisioned, but like, I think we've got a bit of a road until we get there.
Well, if there's an entity I'd want tackling this besides the NCAA, it's definitely the U.S. federal government because we all know that they'll get stuff done.
I mean, when they pair up with the NCAA, it's just efficiency
it's just
defined.
My two favorite entities in the world coming together. What could be better? So the best thing to come out of NIL is something that'll be coming out this summer, and that is a college football video game, which have been sorely lacking. Thankfully, we got to go back in time, and when Chad, you were in the NCAA games. Well, you were not technically in the game, but everyone
no
knew
name on the back of the jersey.
Right, exactly. number 7 in there from Reading, PA, or whatever it said. But a whole generation of college players didn't get to see even a fake them in the game. Now they'll get a real them in the game. It looks that way. And Justin and I have been looking forward to that for a while because for the last 2 springs we've been playing the last game that came out, which had Michigan quarterback on the cover.
And Denard
Robinson was on the cover.
Shoelace.
So we've been playing through that as the Florida Atlantic Owls. It's been a lot of fun. We're in year 4, I think.
I think so.
We just won a national championship. So
that's right.
Nice. Florida Atlantic, baby. All right, so
BCS.
You guys are still playing 12-year-olds, or are you guys playing adults?
I had a couple of Michigan things up for Chad while we were talking about that, including the Reading Eagle article when you picked Michigan in August 2003. Your mom said she loves the picture from that article. And also, shout out to your dad celebrating a birthday today.
Yep.
So,
Big birthday for Sheldon Henne. Yeah. Happy birthday, Dad.
All right, so let's move on to the NFL now. And the Super Bowl is here, coming up a week from tonight. Justin always defer to the NFL. We don't have a show that night. We don't want to take any listeners away from the big game, so we always let them have that night. One last question, and this is one that came up all the time. My dad also asked about now that you're, a year away from the team, do you still have a lot of contact with your teammates and coaches, especially Andy and Patrick, who you've already mentioned tonight, but a lot of people want to know, what is your relationship with the Chiefs right now?
Yeah, I keep it all almost weekly thing with Patrick, especially when the playoffs hit. I just sent him a text of encouragement, just something that I've seen, whether be decisive, be aggressive. You might have to use your feet here. Let the game come to you. Like I sent him, bits and pieces of the texts. He goes in the text and he replies back always, thank you. And I'm so happy for him. Obviously, we've seen the ups and downs of the season, and any words of encouragement when you're in those positions from anybody. And obviously I was with them for 5 years, and even Matt Nagy, just keep in contact with them. Andy Reid, send a text, just really proud of this group and what they've done and accomplished, and hopefully one more and they get the big game.
It seemed that this was the first year of a lot of adversity for them. There was a lot of questions about the offense throughout the season. A lot of young receivers. What's it like as a quarterback to have to break in a young group, and maybe some veterans moved on for whatever reason? How is it to get a young group on the same page and understand how the NFL game works?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Coach Reid's offense isn't an easy one for any young person to come in there. And so that's why you saw some of those struggles, probably overthinking a little bit, understanding, okay, I can run it this way, but I can also sit in this zone. We obviously see Travis Kelce kind of do his nuanced stuff and, go off, script a lot of times in the game. But for a young guy, it's really almost just drawing the straight lines and just kind of being in those areas. And if you do have an option route or field, then you can, work with Patrick on that. But I could see the frustration, and obviously 2 new offensive tackles as well to add into that group. So, we had a lot of penalties for our right tackle on the right side throughout the season. Yeah, Juwan Taylor. So he's not saying he's a liability, but he does get a lot of penalties, right. And we can clean that up as well. But just a lot of new faces, and the best thing about it is that our defense and our young defense that probably has not struggled throughout the years, but was behind the curve from our offense because we were so high powered, really came along and played extremely, extremely well and kept us in a lot of games. So really shout out to Spags and what he's done with that defensive side. And then you obviously know what Patrick's going to do. Like, everybody is doubting it, and it's like, no, you got to realize this guy's a 2-time MVP, 2-time Super Bowl guy. When the light shines, he's going to go out and perform and be at his best. And that's what he's been throughout these playoffs. Travis the same way. And it's been really fun to watch this whole team come together.
Yeah, watching the team's performance last week, which much to the chagrin of your mom, who said she didn't want us to move on to the NFL topic, which she'd rather we'd stay in the collegiate realm, because his mom's a Ravens fan. Big Ravens fan. So, obviously she wasn't happy with the outcome last week, but it was very impressive to see. Well, I don't think there's so many people, the Chiefs fans and Chiefs supporters were not doubting Patrick Mahomes, but I feel like a lot around the league were doubting that he was going to be able to do what he did once playoff came around because of the struggles that we saw this year. And people were like, they lucked out. They beat Buffalo, but Buffalo wasn't, there's always Buffalo is the greatest team in the world, and Buffalo wasn't this strong this year. And when they lose and the Chiefs won, everyone was just like, well, this wasn't Buffalo's best team.
Right. The injuries, everything. Right. There's always an excuse. Yeah. And obviously big time players come through in big time moments. And I laughed at some of the rankings, like even last week they ranked the quarterbacks and Patrick was number 4. And I was like, you guys, like, Purdy was 1.
Who are these people?
Like, Goff was like 2, and then Lamar was 3 and Patrick was 4. And I was like, okay, we'll see how this plays out.
Do you see, and I know you're on Twitter and Instagram, or X and Instagram.
Sure.
Do you see a lot of people turning on Patrick and the Chiefs just because they feel like we're in a Patriots situation where everyone hates the winners?
Sure, absolutely. And I think the more you win, the more people don't want to see that same team keep making it.
To kind of go back, like people are like, oh, you are mad at Michigan because you're jealous. And I'm like, Yes, that's 100%
That's
it.
exactly
Like,
why we're mad.
I'm very jealous. Like, I'm not, this is fandom we're talking about. I'm not like too proud to admit it. Yes, I'm
We don't
jealous.
have to be level-headed
See,
about this.
like, it's funny though, because with the Chiefs, like, I don't feel that way. I think in part, like, yeah, like last year, that stank because like I wanted the Eagles to win. Obviously,
that was good.
Yeah,
It was
I got
but
you.
like, but I was like,
happy.
I was like, okay, because you were on the team. Like, I like Andy still, and I know there's this group that
There's
say like
weird.
that like Philly fans or people who are like Philly fans adjacent, like who like speak for Philly fans. Sometimes are like, oh, that was so long ago. I'm like, I get that, but like, I still like him. Like, I like Andy.
Yeah.
Like, I like Patrick Mahomes. Like, he's fun to watch. Like, he's really good. I like the Kelsey brothers, both of them. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. And I'll tell you what, I'm not rooting for San Francisco. So, like, those two things combined, like, I'm absolutely rooting for the Chiefs.
Yep.
Like, and you know what? Maybe that's not how it was, like, with the Patriots for me. But, like, I don't know. It was just different.
It was
just
tougher
different.
for me being a Dolphins fan to ever
Oh,
want the
absolutely.
Patriots to
If it was an East
right, if this
team,
was the
like,
Commanders, the Giants,
Right,
I won't even
absolutely.
mention the other one.
Oh gosh.
Get my dad will in a second. Just give him some time.
Right, exactly.
But so let's see, where do we want to go here? See if I can pull up a couple more questions.
Oh man.
Well, what did you see in the Chiefs playoffs games that you think will lead them to victory against the 49ers? Is there a difference that you've seen in the playoffs versus the regular season that you think this is the Chiefs team that we expected this year and that can raise another Lombardi?
Well, first of all, I mean, talking about the defense, I mean, they've been superb throughout this whole, year, really. But Patrick really using the check down passes has been tremendous. I mean, you saw it last week. He got the ball out quick. He didn't allow the rush to get to him. He got it to a playmaker's hand, and they created the yak yards after the catch. And I think if he stays on time and they use their spatial awareness, and 49ers really aren't a man defense, so they're going to play a lot of zone and rely on that front four to create pressure. So that's going to be difficult because Travis is obviously going to find his space. Rashee Rice has done a tremendous job.
Really stepped up. And just another one of those guys. And I know it's not all Coach Reed, but like he's just another one of those guys that like finds his way onto an Andy Reid team, and you're just like, where'd this guy come from? Like,
yep. And then you see
really well.
Pacheco and the run game. So now they're taking a lot of pressure off the young receivers as well. So they're staying balanced as an offense, which is great because that plays in our hand. Because then when we have explosive plays and Patrick does his magic, then it's like, oh no, how are we going to defend this Chiefs team if our defense keeps playing? And he said it in an interview, he said, why should I take this shot when my defense is playing so well? Why don't I just get the ball out and I have to punt? At least the ball's in our favor. We change field position, which is obviously always a winning factor in a game. So he's really become a smarter player in this playoffs and has done a great job as well.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, you think about it, he's had all the success, and he's what, like 6 years in, something like that. Like, it's it's just crazy because like he's still learning.
Sure.
Like, the physical stuff, that changes, but like the learning stuff in theory only gets better.
Yep.
That's not fun to think about.
And it's always hard. It's always hard to especially when you have a young phenom. Like, hey, all right, I understand you're reading top down, which means you're reading the vertical first, and then you're working your way to intermediate to the check down. And in the beginning, it's like haymaker after haymaker, and Coach Reed just keeps calling. It's like, geez, I'm sitting on the side. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, hey, Patrick, one of these times, just get the ball to the back, and he actually will probably get 10 yards before anybody will touch because the defense dropped so far back. And now that he's realizing that the defense is playing well and that he has that in his favor, it's kind of the sky's the limit right now.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy.
Before we go on and ask you about the 49ers, You just said that you talked to Patrick, like the weekly check-in. You talked to him, and then it kind of ramped up a little in the playoffs. How about during the regular season when they were going through those struggles? Was there something that you talked about, is specifically football field, or something just take his mind off it? Because you guys are uber competitive. I'm sure Patrick wasn't feeling great when they're what was it, 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 6, whatever it was. They had the struggles, mid late season. Did anything come up differently during that time, or was it just all kind of staying the same?
Yeah, I think the one text that I sent out to Matt Nagy, who's the offensive coordinator, it's actually a poem that Lloyd Carr used to preach to us when I was in school. It's Rudyard Kipling. It's Man in the Arena. And it's really like everybody outside that building is always against you, but you're the man in the arena that's going through everything that everybody sees, and they just don't understand how difficult it is to win throughout this, whole process or just in life. And I sent that out to Matt, and at the downtime of the season, and he was like, wow, he's like, that actually hit home. And I don't know if he shared it, and obviously I would never say, whether he shared it with the team or not. But I felt like at that moment, it was just one of those like, all right, let's just look at ourselves. Like, let's not worry about everybody around us that's doubting us. We can't do this. We're not going to give what they want, and that's an excuse. And for a while, obviously, we saw like against the Buffalo game, okay, he's offsides, and then throw it back. And that was a little pity-patty. Like, I didn't really like how we handled that. Like, he was offsides. Like, come on. As a wide receiver, you check the line, you see the referee. He never double-checked with the referee. Yeah. He just look, okay, down, and then he's offsides. And that obviously was a game changer, and we could have won up in that game and beat Buffalo. But at the same time, you just got to look at yourself in the mirror a lot of the times and say, what can I personally do better? And if I can fix my personal problems, then we can, as a team, come together and fix it, all around, not just, one piece at a time.
I think what was impressive to me about that, you had them, they didn't double down. They backed off. They were mad about it in the moment, obviously understood, even if it wasn't maybe necessarily appropriate. Once you cool off, cooler heads prevail. There were some, they were upset. They voiced that, but then I think after they calmed down, they took a look at everything and were kind of like, we're moving on. Yeah. Like it wasn't the wrong call. Like, sure. They kind of accepted it. Yeah.
And Coach Reed, I mean, that Monday meeting, I guarantee that was the first thing. Like, let's look at ourselves in the mirror. Like, he's always the first one. Obviously, the positive is winning the game. Like, that's always a positive. How can we get better from that? How can we learn if we lost or won to get better as a team each and every week? And usually that Monday meeting or Tuesday meeting when we meet is a quick 5-minute lash of what happened next week or last week, and then you move on to the next game. Like, it's over with. We can't do anything about what happened, whether we win or lose. Let's get on to the next opponent, because if we let it dwell on ourselves, we're just going to carry that into the next game, and good things aren't going to happen.
Now, is that something, without asking you like too many like specifics, but is that something that is like kind of unique to like Coach Reed in terms of like how quickly he moves on? Like, are there some locker rooms that you know of, whether they're ones that you were in or not, where like maybe they dwell on those things more, or is that more?
Yeah, there are the micromanager coaches out there, right? That look at every stat of the game. Hey, if we had 1 more yard on this 3rd down, obviously we'll be better in this situation. And red zone, this percentage needs a little bit higher. Coach Reed's not like that. He's like, all right, let's just get the damn first down and let's just move on. And we didn't do it. How can we get better? How can we change up our scheme to make it go better?
And that's really good, because I'm sure they still get all that information from all the analysts and everybody crunching those numbers. But then to filter that down, that message down, because like you guys don't need that. You need to, hey, we need to make sure that if we need 8, that we go 9. Like we don't run that route at 7. Like that's all you need. You don't need the well, hey, like this.
You need the bigger picture. You want the meat and potatoes. Don't overwhelm me with analytics.
Sure.
Use those to help formulate a game plan, but don't use them as a reason why we lost.
Right.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the 49ers, the Kansas City Chiefs opponent in Super Bowl 58, but they had to beat the Detroit Lions to get there. And since we were just talking about analytics, that's something that came up a lot in the NFC Championship game. Dan Campbell's kind of been that risk taker throughout the whole year, so he stayed true to himself. But there are a couple times that it bit him, and people feel like it may have cost their team the game. We never know how things would have played out if he would have gotten one or both those first downs on fourth, or if he would have kicked field goals or whatever. What's your opinion as a player when you see a coach that is that aggressive on fourth down, especially if it's in a big game? What are your feelings as a player when you're playing for a coach like that?
Well, I mean, anybody in that locker room, and I know Dan from Miami days, and Dan's straightforward as can be. Like, he just wants you to be a good person and just play really hard football. Like, I get it. At the same time, like, the analytical part, they don't take in the situation of the game, right? They just know numbers. Hey, well, it's 4th and 2, 4th and 3. The probability, yes, go for it, but let's see what the other team is. Are they doing anything on offense or defense? How about the crowd noise? Like, none of that plays a factor in analytics. Right. It's just like
it's just raw numbers.
It's all numbers that are just sat out there. And for him to go for it and who he is, I mean, I don't doubt him. And I guarantee you anybody in that locker room was all on board. They're like, heck yeah. Like, Patrick, most of the times, like, if you see 3rd and 1, we run the ball, we don't get it. He's saying, Coach Reed, let's go. We're going for it now, because more than likely, if they ran the ball on 3rd and 1, they're going for it, and they don't get it, they're going for it on 4th down.
Well, and a couple of the plays were there.
Yeah, I mean, they had drops.
You know, they didn't make the play.
Drops, unfortunately, yeah. I know Justin's got a history with the 49ers because of the Eagles stuff last year.
And not crazy. Like, to be clear, while I won't root for them in the Super Bowl, I would have rooted for them over the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game. Like, if that's like,
there's many levels of hatred, right?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
of disdain.
Yes.
But oh man, now I forget where I was going with that.
Sorry,
you pushed me off the track.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Dan, let it be. Everybody can criticize everything when it doesn't go right.
Oh, right, absolutely.
But if it goes right, or when it goes wrong. But when it goes right, then it's like, oh, he's the greatest coach that ever coached.
Right. If they win that game and make those conversions, then everybody's giving him all the credit.
Right.
And it's just like the red zone play, like on 3rd down, he ran the ball. But what if it would busted in and scored? Like, do I agree in that situation? Because then you burn that timeout.
Yeah.
You have that 3 timeouts at the end. You can stop the clock and actually get the ball back with minimal time, but you still have an opportunity.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it, but I just say stay true to who you are throughout the process, and the players will buy in.
I honestly think once the shock value of the failed 4th downs, don't kick the field goal to go up 17 or whatever it was, I think more people, after thinking about it, rewatching the games, more faulted the 3rd down run than the 4th down attempts because of the end of game situation.
Right.
You're losing that timeout. The clock is your worst enemy right now.
Exactly.
It was interesting to watch live. I think a wide proportion of the country was rooting for the Lions just because it's the underdog story, right?
Yep.
Never made the Super Bowl. Obviously,
Austin couldn't believe that. He's like, wait,
they've
never been in the Super Bowl? I'm like, buddy, no. They've been like, honestly,
they haven't even been
exact opposite as you could be for like almost my entire life. There was a stretch there early 90s where they were good. But not Super Bowl good. Like,
but the Eagles smoked them in that one playoff game, like 50-some points. So, well, let's talk about the 49ers, opponent to the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 58. And they've got Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, second year as a starter, kind of came out of nowhere. There's been a lot of stories going around about how the 49ers were kind of figuring out that they might have something with Brock Purdy in training camp, a year ago when he was a rookie. Burst onto the scenes, had a fantastic rookie season. Unfortunately for them, injured in the NFC Championship game last year, which they clearly would have beat the Eagles if he was healthy.
I can't stand you. Hey, they feel free to watch. And early in the Detroit game, It was like the same play. They didn't block like Hutchinson or someone coming off the edge, and he
don't need to block him.
Just like smoked him in the arm, and I'm just like,
here we go again.
I'm like, oh,
didn't learn, right?
Right.
Hassan Reddick, Aiden Hutchinson, back-to-back years. Yeah, what are we gonna do? But had another great year. You know, they kind of like the Chiefs. They had a 3-game slide randomly in the middle of the year, and people weren't sure they could get it done. Struggled against the Ravens on Christmas. Some questions there, but here we are, San Francisco. By and large, the team most people thought it would be them or the Eagles representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. It is the 49ers led by Brock Purdy. What have you seen from Brock these first 2 years of his career? What does he look like as a quarterback? What are your opinions on him?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's done a tremendous job. I mean, for a second-year guy to make 2 NFC championship, win 1, go to a Super Bowl, and obviously last year lose it, but he's just, I mean, obviously has a lot of playmakers, but he's making plays late in the game that you don't see a lot of young guys make. And he really puts the team on the back of his, shoulders and just rides it through. And he makes the plays, like I said, when they need to be. There's some times where I'm like, okay, is he locking on one receiver rather than progressing through where he could hit another guy? Yes, but that's the process. Like, at a young age, you're not just going to be sitting here, I'm going to pick out this and do this and that. But he's taken it by reins, and I think he's just a baller. Like, when the moment you see him gets too big for him, it never is. Like, he always rises above the occasion and has done a great job.
I think that was the biggest thing that people were looking for, people doing the but with him in terms of look at all the talent that's around him. He hasn't had to win a game yet. All the other people, it's McCaffrey and it's Debo, it's Ayuk, it's Kittle, it's Trent Williams in the line. Like, everyone's making excuses. Like, it's not Purdy, it's everyone else.
Right.
And then now both playoff games, he had to show what he was made of and was able to help his team come back, hold on, and win playoff games.
Yeah, he hasn't started very well in a lot of these playoff games, but at the end, he really puts a drive together, just like last week, drives them down, makes some nice, good decisions, throwing the football, and gets them in the end zone. So it's going to be an exciting game to see him play in this moment and, see what he really turns out to be.
Is there an aspect of his game and his young career that leads you to believe that he's here to stay? Like, this is the 49ers quarterback for the next foreseeable future?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the system itself, with the run game, the outside zone, and then the bootlegs that come off with, obviously they're not going to keep every player because they can't. So you can win with a rookie quarterback that you're not paying, right?
Right.
Once that quarterback gets paid, now you're losing, not that you're going to lose Kittle, but you're going to lose, McCaffrey will stay, but Debo Samuel's probably gone.
Or Ayuk.
Ayuk's one of the, they're going to be gone.
Right.
Bosa obviously will stay because he signed a big contract.
Well, and they don't have Purdy for the extra year, so he'll have 2 years left, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Because he wasn't a first rounder.
Yeah.
Well, and they go through all the things we were talking about NIL before. They were listing all the, there are a ton of college football quarterbacks
making more than Brock Purdy
this year than Brock Purdy does. It's just crazy.
I mean, I'm sure he's making a nice marketing, but
I'm sure he's doing fine. Yeah. And he's just banking a lot right now.
He's building up a lot of goodwill for that contract, that extension that'll be coming his way.
But even his press conferences, he speaks well. He says the right things. Even when Bosa went up to him and said, "Did you ever think you were going to be this good?" And he's like, "Well, I think I could have been better in this game." That's the right attitude to play.
Right.
Even though, the demeanor and everything that he went through, and really just at the end of the games has come along. It's really tremendous, and knowing that he's only in his second year.
Well, and that's got to be so hard. Being that aspect of being the quarterback, right? The football stuff is hard enough. You make that jump to the pro level, and I'm sure it's just insane because now everybody is an NFL player. But then you have all those other things of now I've got to go sit in a press conference after I made a bad throw late in a game, and how do I deal with this? Because I'm angry, but I can't go into that press conference angry. Or maybe I messed up. Maybe the receiver ran the wrong route, but I can't go in. That's
the mature.
That's hard
you have
to do
to become
as
very mature at a young
20-some
age.
year old.
For sure. Absolutely.
That's crazy.
So A lot of people wanted to know, are you still a Chiefs guy? Is that your team now? Are you rooting for the Chiefs like forever and always? I think you made it pretty clear that at least right now you're still a pretty big Chiefs
right
guy.
now, just because I'm a year out. Obviously, the players that I played with, I always root for them, and obviously Kansas City, I've been there for the last 5 years, so a lot of the same guys, and Coach Reed, and he's helped me obviously a lot in my career. So like I'll root for the guys that I've always played with, and right now I'm hot off the Chiefs,
Sure.
so it's like I'm rooting.
You got the hat on and everything.
of
You're
course.
ready to roll. You got the rings here. KC logos everywhere. I don't think anyone's surprised by that, and nor am I. But how about we talked about Coach Reed a lot already. You just mentioned him. One of the things that's come up recently, my dad wanted to know what you thought about it. Was, do you think he's nearing retirement? He kind of brushes it off. He hasn't been as crystal clear about it, but you get all these sources say, anonymous people saying, "Oh, this could be Andy Reid's swan
Belichick's
song."
coming to the Chiefs.
What do you think about Coach Reid? Do you think he's nearing the end, or do you think he's ready to go for another 5 years?
No, I think he's going to stay for as long as he can. I mean, he's a football guy through and through, and it's hard for those guys to step outside. Like, when you've been doing it for so long, like, how do you go about life without football? And he's one of those guys that has such a tremendous mind that I think, not that he's going to be a Monty Kiffin that works till he's 80 or 82 or whatever it was, but he's definitely going to be up there. And I could see him working until he's 70. He's just too good of a mind, and he just loves the game so much. And when you have a quarterback that's going to be a future Hall of Famer, why not ride it out until it ends?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely making it difficult to walk on.
For sure.
Well, and it's crazy to me. Like, he has a chance to win his third.
Right.
Has been to five, right?
yeah.
5, yeah.
Like
1-1 in Green Bay.
Oh,
Did
that's
he?
right.
No,
even thinking about
I was
assistant
thinking
coach.
it's the Eagles. The
Oh,
Eagles
okay,
lost-
yeah.
Eagles
When was
lost
the
to
Eagles?
Patriots.
Yeah.
But yeah, he
That's
won
right.
as
He has.
assistant.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, like looking back at those homegrown teams with
Those mid-90s teams.
like those assistants were just
Yeah, I
everywhere
mean, you got
forever.
Gruden. All those
Right.
guys.
It was kind of like what everyone talks about Shanahan tree now,
Yep.
like
Right,
how ridiculous that has gotten. And we look back at the 2013 Washington team. All those guys are
All
6
there.
of them, 7
Yep.
of them are head coaches now.
Yep.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, but like it's just wild. Like you're getting up there. And again, I'm biased. I like Coach Reid a lot. But I'm just like, man, you start to get to 3, you're like up there among. You're not like just in, oh, you're one of the best of all time. Like you're like talking like, all right, here's like 3 or 5 that we're going to talk about, and you're solidly in that group. You know,
right.
and it's just like that's
He
crazy.
And I
already
think,
is.
To me, he is.
think-
Right. To me,
Yeah,
he is. But
right.
like that's one of those
Sure.
where it's
Right,
like
there
I
are
don't know if
people that
I'm
would
putting him
push.
there because
Right.
he's not. But
Well,
like
I
I'm
don't
just
have
like,
a tie to him in any way.
Right,
I was not
right.
an Eagles fan. I always liked him in Philadelphia. I thought he got a raw deal at times, but I feel like it's really hard to discount him what he's been able to do
Right.
with the longevity in Philadelphia. He didn't get the Lombardi, but he got him there, which hadn't been done in 20 plus 25 years. And
he
now
had-
what he's done in Kansas
right.
City, he's absolutely in that conversation, that upper echelon of head coaches. So,
yeah, it's just crazy.
all right, well, we just got a few minutes here left, Chad, and I think we need to get a Super Bowl prediction. You don't have to get in the score if you don't want to do anything like that, but let's break it down. What do you see happening when let's see, where do we want to go first? Let's go Chiefs offense versus Niners defense. Who do you think has the edge and why?
I mean, obviously, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I'm biased, but I mean, obviously, I have the pass rushers with Chase Young and Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa. Yeah, I keep saying Joe because I play with him in the AFC West against him. But okay, Nick Bosa, but they have good rushers. Warner's obviously a great Mike linebacker. We actually had who's the defensive back in Kansas City? That's actually their defensive back now, number 7. The heck is his name? real long. We had him in Kansas City for a couple years.
Oh,
but,
he's in San Francisco.
Yeah, but he's actually a great corner.
Travarius Ward?
Yes, Ward. So he's a very good corner. We'll see who they match against Kelsey. I don't think they have a guy that can really match up against him.
Well, the guy that probably would have done it did he tear his ACL or something like mid-season? The Polynesian.
Yeah, Polynesian, yeah.
I can't think of his name.
Yeah. But it's just hard to say because all these playoff teams and the teams that we played late in the season, Kansas City's always had the favor over them since I've been there, like the last 5 years. Like San Francisco really hasn't beaten us. I don't know if they beat us maybe once, but I think our record in the last 5 years has been pretty high on San Francisco. Like the way they play zone defense, like I said in the beginning, which we should attack pretty well. I feel if we run the game, stay efficient in the run game, and Patrick stays on time with those pass rushers, I don't see them stopping us at all.
Last time the 49ers won was 2014.
See, so
there you go.
Yeah, since I've been there, we've had the upper hand, and we beat them pretty heavily 2 years ago, I want to say, or maybe last year at San Francisco.
Last year, 44-23.
Yeah, so I actually got in that game, and Kelsey needed like 2 more catches to break some record, and we tried a couple of these screens, and one got batted down. The other, it was just a shit show, and I was like, "Oh my god, what's going on?" And Coach Reed's like, "Can you just get him?" I'm like, "I'm trying." I'm like, "They're keep batting my ball down." I'm like, "I don't know." They know it's going to him.
Right.
It's a lot
if
harder.
he's in the game and I'm in the game,
Yes.
like they know we're getting him the ball.
Yes.
Like.
But I mean, we've had the upper hand, so I mean, I would say the Chiefs, have the favorite.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I feel like last year and especially earlier this year, everyone was talking about how great the 49ers defense is. That 49ers defense is electric. They just have been shutting down everyone, but they have not played well the end of this year, especially the 2 playoff games.
I said it like the Lions handed it to them, right? Like they had it, and we talk about like players that always step up in the big moment, and the Lions didn't get it done. They had a great season, and I think they're headed in the right direction. And I think Dan Campbell is the right guy for that. Man, he got them there, and I think he's the guy to give them their best shot to moving forward. But like that Green Bay game, I said Green Bay played well for 10 minutes of that game in the third quarter. The rest of the game, they didn't play well.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first half, they couldn't put the ball in the end zone. They had to kick field goals from inside the 10. Like in the fourth quarter, they couldn't stop anybody. Like now, the Niners can only play who's there. Like it's not their fault that the Cowboys lost and the Eagles lost, and like they can't beat teams that are also playing poorly and not getting to play them. But like I feel like if they would have beaten the Cowboys in the second or the Eagles in the second round, then the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game. Not the way those teams were playing at the end, but like, in the way that like I would like to think those teams were playing, then, I think I'd be like, oh man, look out. But I'm like, I just haven't been impressed. They've won, and that is all that matters.
Sure.
But I'm just like, I don't watch either of those games, and I'm like, oh, like
they're dominant.
Mm-hmm. Now I say that I watched the Chiefs, but it was very different. Go down early in this run of success. They would go down to some teams and then just come storming back. But like, I feel like they've matured out of that. And this is no, our defense is going to dominate. We're going to figure you out. Our offense is going to figure you out, and then we're going to get the points we need, and our defense is going to do it. Like
I would think, the Chiefs' game plan on defense is stop the run first. Obviously, stop the run and see if Brock Purdy can beat us. Yep. And obviously he has the weapons, see if we can match up with their skill. And if we shut down the run and the Chiefs are able to run the ball, I think that's going to be the biggest factor. I think whoever has the most rushing yards in this game, I think will turn out to be the winner.
Well, like I think it's not a stretch to be like this Chiefs defense is the best defense they faced since they got blown out by the Ravens.
Yeah.
Completely. So I'm just like, you look at Detroit's defense. Everyone said going in, like, how's Detroit going to stop them?
Yeah, they were seed.
Right? Their DBs can't stop anyone. And for a half, they were good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they didn't get pressure.
Yeah.
And
I think Aaron Glenn had a good scheme, a good game plan. And eventually, like good teams do, the 49ers adjusted and they were able to take
you look
down
at
the
the
Lions.
Chiefs, like the Chiefs aren't. Niners have great talent on offense, but like the Chiefs aren't like so outmanned.
Sure.
You know, like they've got those DBs in the back are young and good.
Yeah, Snead's playing unbelievable.
Yeah.
McDuffie,
McDuffie, yep.
Right.
playing really well, and we'll see what happens. But
And their
I think it's the
experience,
run game.
a bunch of them played in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah,
You know,
and
like,
that's going to be a big factor because, I mean, there's some guys in the 49ers that are still there that were in the Super Bowl in 2019. But just us being there 4 times or whatever it is in the last 5 years, it's like we have a process. So this whole week that they just went, they already know it. They're going to go to the same week once they get out to Vegas. It's just by script. We have halftime already planned out by the minute. Like, you're doing something at this minute. So, there's a lot to it that, goes in other than just football.
Do you know what the line is, Justin? I know it's been moving.
I opened
2.5.
I know, but opened at that. Is it still at that?
That's what I had seen. I had seen that the Niners were slight favorites.
That's wild to me.
I was stunned. I sent it to you. I was stunned. Not that I don't think they're good. I think they're good. They were the best team in the NFC. But I don't think it's a stretch to be like the Chiefs, even though they weren't the 1 seed and everything this year, are by far the best team they have played in a month.
Right
you
now.
know, like
Actually, my son Chase said something, a random fact.
I love it.
I forget what it is. It's 16-3, the team that wears white.
oh yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
16 wins the 3, and Chiefs are actually one of the teams in red.
Correct.
Which we beat the 49ers
Yep.
in. So the Chiefs will be in red.
Yep.
The 49ers will be in white. So it'll be fun to see that. Obviously, the
Regression
Super
to the
Bowl
mean. Here we
logo got a little messed
Yeah,
up with
yeah.
the purple and red.
Austin
but-
was all
Yeah,
on
I'm-
that
I'm
train
good with
like
that.
a few weeks ago.
I hate conspiracy crap.
Austin was all on that. He's like, it's rigged. I'm like, it's not rigged. But the colors. I'm like, I know the colors. But he's like, so how isn't it? I'm like, it's hard to prove a negative, bud. But trust me on this one.
Yeah.
It's probably like preseason, though. Like, hey, who is like the number 1 teams that are coming back? I mean, I don't know.
Well, actually, they usually release the logo for the next one right at the end of this one.
Yeah.
They have it so
See,
far.
so
in
Chad's
advance.
not letting it slip that he gets the script,
Right,
every July.
Right. Yeah. So
you know,
so
like-
when you got the script each season, what was the first thing you turned to? But yeah, you won the Super Bowl in white last year. That's your last game jersey was white, and proving that weird correlation of teams wearing white winning the Super Bowl. That's a great pull by Chase. I saw that this week on the great UniWatch blog that I read. Yeah, it's crazy. 16-3 in the last 19 Super Bowls. The team wearing white came out on top, but like you said, Chiefs won it in red against this team just a few years ago. It's the exact same aesthetic matchup as 4 years ago. Chiefs 49ers, red for Kansas City, white for San Francisco. So you got anything else you want to ask? Any final thoughts? Any final questions?
No, I mean, I just think it should be a good game. I mean, I'd be okay if the Chiefs just blew them out. Like people are, I feel like good Super Bowls are overrated. Like,
well, it was funny.
Well, you don't want like a big blowout. Then it's like, okay,
Well-
how many beers can I drink?
Growing up, we got awful Super Bowls. The Super Bowls were terrible
Yeah.
when we were younger. I don't think any of us are old enough to remember the wide right Norwood Bills Giants. I don't have any recollection of that game.
See, I'm not even sure I was seeing the whole thing. Like, I remember watching things, but I feel like I might have still been going to bed at halftime of those. Like,
I watched all of Washington Buffalo. That wasn't a close game. All of the Buffalo Dallas game. That Dallas Pittsburgh, San Francisco San Diego, the Green Bay games. I guess Packers Broncos wasn't terrible. That wasn't too bad, but I feel like we didn't get a really great one until Rams Titans.
yeah.
With
That was crazy.
Kevin McNair to Dyson. Was it Kevin Dyson? I think coming up just short. But that kind of was a blip because then there was a bunch of blowouts for a while. But I feel like we've gotten much better games in the last decade or so. Exciting moments, ones that had us wondering down to the end. The first one that you were in. Kansas City was losing
Down
in the
10.
fourth quarter,
Yep,
right?
down 10.
Yeah. And
6
they came
minutes.
back to win
Yep.
by 11.
I mean, all the playoff
Boxers.
games this year have been tremendous.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's a tight game, which is what you want to see as a fan. Like, it's
Yeah.
been really, really good games.
And the numbers that these games are getting are just absurd.
It's just absurd.
Just
both
absurd.
games over 50 million last week.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm hopeful for a good Super Bowl game. I'd like to see them eclipse. Imagine if they get to, because I think they've been in like the mid 110s, like round 115.
Yeah,
I want to say by and large the last handful of years for the Super Bowl broadcast.
I do find it amusing, and there's some people like Mike Greenberg used to be big on this. He's just like, so you mean to tell me 2/3 of the people
are not watching
the Super Bowl? He's like, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't believe it. Like, who are these people? Like,
what are you doing?
Right. And I say that, but like, I know people who will be like next week they'll be like, oh, who's playing? And I want to be like, our lives are so different. Like,
Well, Taylor Swift is going to be at the game, so we're going to add.
You're right.
a
You're right.
lot
You're
more
right.
viewers.
You're right.
Okay. Let's close. I do want to have a question. Then, well, we can ask about Taylor. That's fine. But I wanted to ask about when you were on with us in March. You had a playoff touchdown last January to Travis. He threw that ball into the stands.
Mm-hmm.
You got that ball back, correct?
Yep.
You were on.
I was on the podcast.
The
yeah.
live recording
Yep.
of the podcast after
During the
winning the
draft.
Super Bowl. What was that experience like?
It was awesome. I mean, I came on the podcast. I knew I was going out there. Had a couple of appearances out there, and then got to meet up with the guys. And I'm coming on stage, like, just thinking I'm on the podcast. Like, I knew the ball was somewhere out there, but I was like, I got another ball. Like, Patrick gave me one of the game balls in the locker room, so I got it painted, and I'm like, I'm fine. Like, a ball's a ball. Like, obviously it means a lot, but no big deal. And then right when we're about to end that podcast, Travis stands up. He's like, who's the fan that caught this? They talked about the moment, and the fan stands up, and he has the ball. I'm like, holy shit. And then I started thinking, I'm like, how the hell am I going to get this home? Like, I didn't pack enough to put a ball in my bag. Like, can you guys ship that? Or, like, how does this work? But no, that was like.
Stop at UPS now.
Yeah, but it was a really cool experience. And for the fan itself to, like, bring that. Travis obviously, gave him tickets to come to the podcast, which is really cool on his part. And I'm sure Travis signed probably a jersey or something for him to get him that ball back, which now it's down in the basement. It's, hanging up. So it's
Forever
it's
yours,
cool.
family heirloom. Yeah, great story attached to it. That's awesome. So, yeah, let's round it out. How has Taylor Swift taken over your house? Is that something that Brittany and Hunter are into, or?
Yeah, I mean, they went to the concert last year in Philly,
Okay.
and I mean, they love Taylor Swift, and of course, Brittany was like, "It's the best concert ever." 3 hours of her just like singing her heart out, which rightfully so. Like, I've never been to a concert, but obviously her songs are catchy. Like, I'm not saying like I'm a fan. I think she's really, really good at what she does, and. Sometimes it takes away from the game, but actually it probably brings in the female side that really hasn't watched football, and now they're really into learning something new. So I think there's a plus to it, side of it. I mean, I don't think they should show her as many times. I'd rather see Jason Kelsey jump out of a suite with his shirt off and, do that. But, it's cool. My daughter, there's Taylor. Like,
I
it's
think
really...
that's been the biggest development for me, and I know a lot of other girl dads that are big into football. It hasn't been a revelation for my relationship with Natalie because she was already big into football, but she definitely is more aware and likes to watch other games than just the ones that I'm interested in.
Sure.
But Taylor Swift going to the Chiefs, who she was already familiar with, or she was super excited about that. But there's been so many reactions online of how, hey, my daughter wants to watch football now because she might get to see Taylor Swift, and now we watch football games because of Taylor Swift. There's a guy that took his daughter to the Bills-Chiefs playoff game. She never wanted to go before because Taylor Swift associated with she got to. So, people are making memories that they didn't get to before. So It's pretty sweet. And like the New York Times article said, she's been shown on average about 25 seconds a game. So it's a 3-hour sporting event. If you can't handle 25 seconds, I'm not really sure what to tell you.
I feel like you're looking for something to be angry about at that
so,
point.
And if